Hello and welcome. I'm glad you could be with us tonight. We're talking about a topic that I think is vitally important for all families. We're talking about end-of-life decision-making and decision planning. I've learned from my guests that about 40% of Americans, adults, do now have some written instructions for their family, but that means that about 60% don't. And if you're in that group, I think you'll learn a lot. And if you've already done it, it's something that we need to redo regularly too, so you'll get some tips, I think, on that. My guest is wonderfully able to talk about this. She's written a book about it. Her name is Ann Elizabeth Denny. She is a consultant in healthcare in the technology information segment. You've worked in that field for about since 1995.
Correct.
Let them do the math.
Yes.
She also is a woman whose mother had Alzheimer's, and Ann had a long, prolonged saying goodbye period with her mother, which we'll hear more about that in connection to her mission really now. Well, welcome, Ann.
Thank you for having me.
So glad we can do this. You got interested in this topic in terms of writing the book because of your mother, Carol.
That's right.
Tell us a bit about her and what your family went through, what she went through.
Right. Well, my mom lived with Alzheimer's, and our family went through that journey for 20 years. And she was formally diagnosed at age 60, but the symptoms had really begun a couple of years before that. She passed away in May of 2012, and so it was about 20 years through that journey. And the difficulty with dementia is it's so insidious. There's no clear dividing line where you think, if we could get the decisions made before this date, we'll know that we've got exactly what Mom would want. It creeps in, and it's so hard to understand, is the person really capable to speak for themselves?
And some days she might be, and some days she wouldn't be, right?
Exactly right. And the key issue is that our family, like most families, did not have a plan. We hadn't talked about it, especially because Mom's symptoms began so young.
And wasn't she, from what I've heard, a very vital, healthy woman? I mean, someone that
she was in many ways
to be old.
She was in many ways. She had had tuberculosis in her 30s, and so she did have some medical challenges along the way, but in other ways she was still quite robust. But the dementia was really creeping in and taking away Mom. You know, Mom wasn't Mom anymore. And our family, like most families, didn't always agree on what would be the best care for Mom. And that's where my passion for this comes from. My heart in this and my mission is really to help families be prepared instead of waiting for the crisis. Because in the emergency room, we are not clear thinkers, and family dynamics are just on steroids, right? And emotions are amplified, and decisions are required rapid fire. And so that's the worst time to have these conversations for the first time.
People are so frightened and sad and scared.
And panicked, right? And siblings go to war with one another because each is certain that they know what would be best for Mom or for Dad, because Mom never expressed her wishes.
Your mother ended up being in a long-term care group home.
She did for 11 and a half years.
Okay.
Yes.
And were there a lot of times during that period where you wondered, would Mom want this?
There were a few occasions when I felt that my mom was ready for heaven. Faith is the center part of my life, and it was very important to my mom, and she and I shared that, and I just felt like she was ready to be at peace. And